Hello, everyone. Dr. Eames here. What I'd like to talk about this time is to expand our discussion on departmentalization and just talk about some of the various forms that we would use. Now, we're going to probably always have that functional departmentalization with traditional departments, such as human resources and finance or production and things like that. Um, but every company, depending on the industry, is going to have some other needs. And so we have different ways that we can serve those needs with our departments and so forth. And so we can undertake a departmental uh, product departmentalization. And so if you look at the example here, what we've got is a company that makes some sort of sporting bikes, two-wheelers, three-wheelers, four-wheelers, whatever the heavy motors category might be, and they have enough business and so forth and enough activity going on where each one needs to be segregated into its own department, maybe because of the process or the parts used, not necessarily the same workers. And possibly, if they've got these four departments, they might have enough activity going on where they need these four departments going at the same time versus, oh, this week or this month we'll make two-wheelers and then next month we'll make three-wheelers and so forth. So, depending on again size driving your activities, you might end up departmentalizing by product, and this is a good example of that. We could also departmentalize by customer. Um, that is another generic strategy, uh, a focus strategy. And in this case, all our efforts would be about the customers and so forth. We'd still have our traditional functional departments again. Um, but depending, if we were a manufacturing company and we made something, we might have wholesale customers and need this department here, the wholesale department. If we were selling also to retailers or only to retailers, we might have this one instead of that one, a retailer department. But certainly, this is B2B commerce, this is B2C. If you make a product, you might certainly find it reasonable, and it's very common that you would sell to both. And so you would need a department to handle that. Um, and then, depending on the scope of your operations, um, domestic and foreign, a department that handles all the customer information, requests, surveys, and assessments about how you're doing and customer satisfaction, those sorts of things. Well, those sorts of things would take place, but it would be duplicated, of course, in each of these departments. So there's always that question that's going to be in the back of your mind that are we duplicating too many efforts and so forth? Would it be better just to take all of our customers, foreign and domestic, and put them in one department? Is that workable, or would it just be too much, too much chaos? So those are the types of questions that organizations have to answer and figure out for themselves when they're choosing how to departmentalize. Certainly, depending on scope of operations, if you're far flung, if your size is big enough where you're in the United States, you're in Europe, and you're in Asia, it might make sense that you've got the basis of all your departments are in these three areas. And then within each of these areas, you would have a hierarchy of departments that hang together and get the work of each area done. Um, so in the US region, you may have a marketing department, and you might have your research and development and your shipping and receiving, and you may have the same thing over here and over here. The question again becomes how many services can we duplicate? Should we centralize our operations or not and make all the decisions from home in one department and have a department for each sort of decision we need to make? We could have an overall marketing department and have three managers within it, one for each region. So there are so many variations and way that we can do this departmentalization idea. Simply depends on our business context, how big we are, and we just have to weigh all the factors and see if it makes sense or not. And to wrap it up, the final one I want to talk to you about is departmentalizing by your process. It could be that you are manufacturing something, but you've taken over all of the steps, including, in the case of this one, which is a textile manufacturing company of some sort, right? From looking at just what departments they have. So they've got, again, they're probably functional, traditional departments, their human resource department, shipping and receiving, and all the rest. But they start out by spinning their own thread. They take the thread and they weave garments. They probably use all sorts of technology and machinery to do that. Some machines are controlled by software programs, and they will actually create the garments, and then they will ship them in blocks and so forth, and they cut them and in a process that makes some coherent sense. It makes sense that if you're doing something with textiles that you might dye or you might print it. So they're onto the fabric itself. And so you're divided your efforts up into the very much on the process itself, and that would be your emphasis in the company, that the making, the transformation is such the big deal and such a big part of all your activity, um, that it really assumes that importance where this is the only way you can handle that. Okay, folks, that's what I wanted to talk about this time. I'll talk to you again soon.